The following episode contains approximately 815 spoilers for all seasons and episodes of Lost. You've been warned. Welcome back to another episode of Lost the Plot. It's the podcast where two Irish lads talk a heap of shite about ABC's hit mid-aughts TV show, TV sensation.
Don't worry, you're doing great.
I was going to say mid-aughts 2000s. Those are the same thing. That show is Lost. This show is Lost the Plot. My name is Dave. Let me introduce my co-host. His encouraging words have already been heard. It's Ado. What's up, Ado?
What is happening? Although, in fairness, if I still need to be introduced, I'm literally 50% of this show. And we're doing something wrong.
Again, we've said it before. We always got to account for the insane newcomers who jump in on episode 25 as it is.
Well, hang on. Let me ask you a question. You definitely listen to a few more podcasts than I do, right? You've been known to listen to the odd podcast in your time.
If listening to podcasts is something you can be good at, then I have done my 10,000 hours. Put it that way.
Nice. So here's a question. You discover a new podcast. Do you go all the way to the beginning and listen from episode 1, or do you just jump in?
Ooh, depends on the podcast. Generally, I do it less now to go into episode 1 because it feels like more of a time commitment. I used to always go to episode 1 when I worked a job where I could listen to podcasts 7 hours a day. I do it less now. I tend to do it if I didn't host this podcast, I would probably, and I checked it out, I would probably go back to the start. If a podcast deals more with like current events and stuff like that, I usually just jump in, maybe like a few back from where they are, just to sort of familiarize myself, to have a few episodes to catch up. But yeah, like if it's I listen to a lot of political podcasts. I generally won't go back to the start of those. I don't really want to hear their thoughts on the second Obama administration at this point, you know. Like,
yeah, fair. Good point. Yeah, there's been a couple of podcasts that I've done that with. I've gone all the way back to the very first episode, and it hasn't really mattered because they don't really talk about current day events. It's all about, whatever their particular niche subject is on hand, and they'll do like episodes by topic going that way.
Yeah,
I've no problem listening to them, but one of my favorite podcasts that I ever listened to, and I kicking myself, I haven't listened to it in a long time. Definitely an inspiration for this one is Four Finger Discount.
Yes, I checked this out. I'd always known about it, but I checked it out based on your recommendation. And I've only listened to the first few. I went back to the start of that. I think it becomes something very different to what a big starts out as. But because you can tell at the first few episodes, they're sort of like finding their feet, but it's good. I like it.
They are so good. I definitely listened to the first couple of seasons of that, but it's one of those that you have to listen to it from the beginning. But one of the things I love about that podcast, and I think we consciously made an effort to include it here, I certainly did based on being inspired by them, is that not only are you getting a lot of like really good Simpsons content through the analyses of the episodes and from just the original thoughts and opinions of these two highly knowledgeable guys on the show, but as the episodes go on, you actually get to learn more and more about the hosts themselves, who they are, what they do.
I do find that with comedy podcasts as well, I'm much more likely to go back to the start. Just because if you jump in a random place, they've already established like a bunch of inside jokes and stuff, you know? Do we have inside jokes? I feel like it's difficult to tell when you're this close to where the sauce is made.
We have our first episode of this season that centers around Mr. Pigfucker himself.
Mr. Pig? Wait, I don't know what you're talking about. Mr. Pigfucker?
Locke.
Oh,
loves fucking pigs.
Yes, yeah, okay. Sorry, I thought you meant the first episode of this season of Lost the Plot, and I was like,
we have our first episode of this season centered around Mr. Pigfucker.
Johnny Locke likes to fuck pigs.
Also, what are you talking about? Do we have inside jokes? I guarantee you our inbox is going to be inundated by both of our listeners, highlighting at least another one or two.
Yeah, that's what you like to Like to crack out. That's a good one. I guess we have like nicknames for people as well, right? Like Jackson Bender, Johnny Locke.
Well, Johnny Locke is not really much of a nickname, in fairness.
Nobody ever calls him Johnny except us.
True, true.
How was your day, man? We recorded IRL. We recorded the last episode that you, dear listener, heard a week ago. We recorded it yesterday. This is the most intensive period of recording we've ever had.
Yeah, we've now recorded 3 episodes in the space of how many days?
4 days, Saturday,
Yeah.
Sunday, Monday. Yeah, 4 days.
3 episodes in 4 days. We've never recorded this often. Are you feeling the fatigue yet? How are you doing now?
I don't have much to talk about on a good day, you know. But if you pack this many episodes in, like, what did I do today? I spent like 5 hours of my work day preparing for this podcast. Maybe not 5 hours, but at least three. I went out to my dad's house and played with my little brother and stepped in dog shit because they have a dog now, this puppy who just shits all over the garden and they don't bother to clean it up.
No, puppies tend to do that. Do you want to know a fun fact about puppies? I don't know if you knew this, but there's definitely going to be some listeners who did not know this. Newborn puppies, like, I mean, brand spanking fresh out of the box, brand spanking new, newborn puppies, right? They have difficulty shitting, right? Not that they have difficulty shitting, but what happens is the mother licks their asshole to encourage them to shit, and then the mother eats it.
Gross.
That is 100% true.
It's like the dog version of mothers that eat their own placenta.
Oh,
except it's not really like that.
That is the weirdest fucking trend.
Isn't it supposed to have like a bunch of healthy benefits though?
I do not give a fuck.
Yeah, I can't tell if that's like new age sort of, herbal remedies style thingy, or I'm sure there's probably some scientific evidence to back that up, right?
Man, there is plenty of fucking nutrients, etc., in my own self-produced baby batter, but I'm not gonna have a fucking genocidal omelet any day soon, right? Fry that shit up with a couple eggs, sprinkly cheese.
Don't knock it till you try it. All I'm saying.
Do you know what? I shouldn't have said that. I literally just ate curry cheese chips there a minute ago. If anyone can't tell, I have the worst fucking diet of all time. I'm here for a good time, not a long time.
Aren't you starting to feel it though? I used to have that attitude. I still have a pretty bad diet. I get my vegetables in as well, I do cooking and stuff, but I eat a lot of shit on the side, and I've tried to stop doing that now because since like the pandemic, I turned 29 in the pandemic, and since then I have just been feeling it. Whenever I eat shit food too much, I feel like dirt. I try not to eat shit food before we record one of these because I literally feel my brain power reduced. Like I'm a less good host.
That's my secret. My brain power is always reduced.
Ada, what do you think? Is it time to get into the episode?
Yes, I think it is definitely time to get into the episode, but not before a few words from what I imagine the boys over at Four Finger Discount would say, which is, you don't make friends with salad. Let's get the fuck into it.
You don't make friends with salad, but we are going to make friends when we go back to the island. This week, we are covering Season 2, Episode 3 of Lost. It is titled Orientation, and it first aired the 5th of October, 2005. Ada, any thoughts on that title?
It seems to be very one-dimensional in the sense that the last episode, we were able to get double meaning out of it. I'm struggling to find a double meaning in this one. I mean, I thought, okay, orientation to do with the film that they watch during the episode. Yeah. But then orientation, maybe, they've found a new location and they're getting to know it a little bit. But that's what the movie's all about. Oh my God.
I had the exact same thought process. That's wild. I was scraping the barrel for a double meaning. I'm like, they watched an orientation movie, but they're also getting oriented to how the hatch. No, that's the same thing, isn't it?
Right. Can we link it to Locke's flashbacks or anything? He's being oriented in how to navigate a relationship and let go of it.
Yeah, okay, there we go. I mean, there's something there. I mean,
fuck off. You need yoga for that stretch, man.
Helen could be said to be orientating him towards to be giving him an orientation on how to live your life without anger or without being hung up on something. There's an argument to be made there. All right, there we did it. Well done. This episode was directed by our boy Jackson Bender, back already. He also directed 2 episodes ago, the opening episode of the season, Man of Science, Man of Faith. We're going to see Jackson Bender a lot. He directed the most out of anyone. Isn't it like a crazy number, like 50 some odd episodes?
It's a stupid high amount of episodes. So yeah, this is not the last we've seen of him. This is only the fucking beginning.
Yeah. Welcome back, Jack. This episode was written by Javier Grillo-Marchois. Our boy is back with the difficult name.
Another heavy hitter.
Yeah, and it was actually co-written by newcomer Craig Wright. Craig was born in Puerto Rico, and he writes for TV, movies, and the stage. He's primarily a playwright, actually. Craig. He's pretty prolific as well. He's had a few plays. I think he had one that Paul Rudd acted in, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
He also wrote on 6 Feet Under, and he created the shows Dirty Sexy Money, which I could have sworn was a Shonda Rhimes joint, but apparently not.
No.
And this show called Greenleaf. And this will tell you just like if you're a writer who's anyway like adjacent to Hollywood, this will just tell you how random the jobs that you can pick up are, right? Because this guy is like a classy playwright. He's written like off-Broadway plays. He's in a Chicago, a collective of a troupe of playwrights and stuff. He also wrote the 2004 movie Mr. Peabody and Sherman.
Oh, I'm sorry. What?
Are you aware of those characters? I don't think they're really hit in Ireland, but they were part of the Rocky and Bullwinkle show. I did a little bit of research on this. They're like 2 characters in it. You would know them because they were featured in an episode of The Simpsons, the Halloween special where Homer's traveling through time and he runs into this little kid and a dog, and the dog goes, "Quiet, you."
Yes.
That's Mr. Peabody and Sherman. That's a reference to that cartoon.
What the fuck?
Yeah, so they got their own animated movie.
Oh, so they're quite prolific.
Yeah, they never had their own show, but they were in, like, I think Rocky and Bullwinkle had a bunch of sub characters in it, and they were a couple of them.
I know that Rocky and Bullwinkle was one of those things. It was like one of the big cartoons of the United States.
Yeah, never really hit over here.
No, I only ever heard of it when there was a Rocky and Bullwinkle movie.
Yeah.
And I went to see it with my dad, and that was the first and last time I ever thought about Rocky and Bullwinkle, because it was just never a thing here.
It is weird. I'm sure that they showed some of those cartoons like late at night on Nickelodeon or something, but they were never like the mainstream ones over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he wrote that movie, also a playwright. He only wrote on Lost for half a season, and he has his credits on 2 episodes. He co-wrote this one with Grillo-Marchois and another one upcoming later this season, and then he left at the mid-season break of Lost season 2, so he wasn't around for long.
Interesting.
Shout out to Craig, right? I hope he's doing good. So with that, we get a nice long previously on Lost on this one. And is it me? I won't go into it. It just kind of, details the shit with the raft, the shit with the hatch. Is it me, or was the final shot of this previously on Lost, which makes itself out to be the final shot of the last episode, but it was a different shot, right?
How do you mean? What was so different about it?
Well, okay, so the last episode ended with Sawyer and Michael washing up on shore and Jin running out and saying others, and then they ominously like come over the, I don't know, like whatever. There's like
just these like
rocks.
shadow figures.
Yeah. And I maybe I'm wrong. I didn't go back and validate this, but I just thought they used a different shot in this because they opened the episode with the same shot. But I mean, I had watched the other one, yesterday because that's when we recorded, and it just felt different to me. I could be wrong though.
I am gonna be honest with you. I could have been just writing my notes and not looking at the screen during that blink and you'll miss it moment, but I don't remember them even including that shot of the others.
Yeah, I thought maybe it was related to your bit of trivia that you had in the last episode, which was that not all the characters have been cast yet, and maybe they did cast a few more of them and then change the shot, but that's not actually what happened because I have
no, from what I can tell, the dude that plays Mr. Echo was actually one of those shadow figures at the very end of season 1.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at it again, which I did, yeah, that's him, right?
100%. Anyway, let's get into it. So we pick up right where we left off. There's one very intimidating, large gentleman at the front, the Mr. Echo we've been speaking of, although we don't know him by that name yet. And he begins bounding over towards Sawyer and the boys. And Jin tries to scream a warning as if they don't see him, but apparently it's too late, apparently, because the dude fucking clobber Sawyer in the head with a piece of wood. Probably hard enough to fucking kill a man.
Yeah, he actually just straight up murdered Sawyer
Yeah,
right there and then.
like fucking boom, headshot. He incapacitates Michael. He beats Jin the fuck down. And then he like picks Jin up by the scruff and the shirt, like he's a couch cushion or something, like
Yeah.
completely effortlessly. This dude is a fucking Hulk. And then we cut immediately to him and his group dragging the three boys through the jungle in nets. So our rafties are not having a good time.
And Sawyer, we learned later in the episode, Sawyer had a fucking gun. But no, this big fucking dude with the club, big black guy, was able to cover a serious amount of distance like he was Barry Allen before Sawyer could even think of that.
Yeah. And now Sawyer's like knocked out, presumably, because again, that was some clock.
Yeah.
So these captors, they get to this makeshift cage door that hangs over a pit that they've dug right into the ground, and they open it and they fuck the boys in on top of each other. Just no regard for their fucking safety at all. Like it's just a dog pile at the bottom of that fucking pit.
They're just so unceremoniously just fucked into it. Like,
yeah.
I mean, if the fucking club over the head didn't give them any damage, like you could have broken their necks falling in there. Like,
yeah, it's easily like what like an 8 or 9 foot drop.
Easily, without a doubt.
Yeah. So Michael gets up and blearily asks, "Where's my boy?" But the muscle man's having none of it. He shuts the wooden cage door, ties it up, fucks off. We cut back to fucking Johnny Locke at gunpoint, and we get a repeat of Desmond's warning shot from the last episode that bounces off the sort of grate to Kate's air vent. The producers of the show must be very proud of this scene, because this is the third time they've shown it to us in the regular runtime of an episode, not including previously on Lost.
Man, this whole fucking standoff, this Mexican standoff with Jack, John, and Desmond has literally lasted 3 episodes now.
Yeah, it's pretty frustrating. Either that or they're just really trying to delay what happens next, because we still get another repeat of Jack. He asks Locke, is this your destiny, John? All roads lead here, which for Locke triggers a flashback.
Naturally.
We haven't seen this before, but we're in a Johnny Locke episode, confirmed. And we see Johnny sitting in a chair, hands clasped. He's looking kind of bored, while a woman off screen talks about how her mother stole from her again. And we pull out to reveal that he's in some sort of support group meeting. Johnny Locke still has his hair, but it's worn in just the most shocking comb over. I think I can't remember the hair prosthetic they used in his last flashback episode around this time, but they've made him balder, right? Like he's balding.
He is definitely in the
process. It's progressed. Yeah. It looks awful.
But this is a weird kind of support group. I mean, I understand AA and Narcotics Anonymous and shit like that, but what did the posters say to get people to attend this?
I do have what it says on the blackboard in my trivia.
Ooh.
And I won't say it all, but I can tell you now that it's an anger management support group.
Yeah. I see.
Which, I mean, it doesn't. You could be forgiven for not knowing that, because, like, I didn't actually find that out to my trivia research. I assumed it was like people who have been abandoned by parents or something, right? Or who have poor relationships with their parents. Because this woman,
of family member theft is what I thought it was.
Yeah. So this woman that began speaking off screen, she claims that her mother stole from her. It was $30, and that might not be a big loss to a lot of people, but it's a big loss to her and fucking preach sister. I would fucking hate to have 30 quid stolen off me.
I'd be raged.
That would change my week, I think. Locke puts a hand over his face in an attempt to sort of stifle a laugh, but everyone hears it. He couldn't be more obvious. And then a woman, who presumably is the one leading the meeting, asks if he's got something he wants to say. Locke, like a schoolboy in class, is like, nope, all good. But the woman presses him. She says, "Listen, you've been coming here for a month now." And he cuts across her. And he says, "I just don't think $30 is worth getting angry about." Check your privilege, dude.
Yeah, 100%. Fucking hell. $30. Like, how many chicken fillet rolls is that?
Yeah, that's right. A lot.
That is 6 4-packs of Dutch Gold.
Man. And what, Locke just wants to pour all that Dutch Gold down the Swanee? Good luck to you. So the woman defends Francine, who we find out is the name of the former owner of $30, who says the Francine feels differently, but Locke retorts that he thinks the Francine feels too much.
That is harsh.
Yeah.
That is a raw opinion to just throw out in the open. Like that's, and you know what? That is the whole reason why Locke is there at anger management. It's so he can learn to control to not say shit like
Yeah,
that.
exactly. He's not doing too good. I mean, he thinks that Francine feels too much, but karma came around and bit him in the ass, literally, because he didn't feel too much in his legs later on. Was that me making fun of a crippled man? Yes.
A fictional crippled man, so it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've already secured my ticket to hell long ago, my friend. Don't you worry about me. So Locke says everyone in the meeting feels too much, and he starts mocking what they say. He's like, "Oh, oh, my mom stole $30, yada yada yada." Like it's really fucking cruel. But there's a woman 2 seats away from him who seems pretty amused, like she's kind of holding back a smile. And this woman is played by none other than Katie Sagal.
Yeah, Katie Sagal,
Yeah,
really, really famous from a whole ton of shit. But
yeah, best known as Peg Bundy from Married with
right,
Children, right? That was her sort of breakout. Gemma in Sons of Anarchy,
that's
which
how that's what she always reminds me of.
yeah,
Anytime I think of Katie Sagal, I think of Gemma.
yeah. I watched all of Sons of Anarchy. I didn't like most of it, but she is great in that.
Oh man, I fucking love that show.
Nah, that thing fell apart at the end. It was just. I mean, I'm not
Oh
going to spoil it,
sure,
but
right at the end, yeah. But for the most
I
part,
thought there was also a season where they went to Ireland, which was unwatchable.
oh fuck,
That
that
was
was diabolical.
horrific.
And the opening theme music was changed
Yeah,
and
yeah,
everything. Oh man, that was yeah,
it
okay,
was horrible.
fair.
But what I most love Katie Sagal for, and I don't think a lot of people realize this, is she is the voice of Leela in Futurama.
I did know that, yes.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe it is more common knowledge. I remember I found out years after knowing who she was, and I hadn't put it together. So maybe I'm just basing that off my
Sometimes
experience.
it can
But
be difficult to,
yeah,
pair a voice actor with their face.
so Locke takes this opportunity to break out his own sob story about how he never knew his parents, but then his birth mother found him and told him he was special, and then that led him to his father, who ended up stealing his kidney, etc., etc. That old chestnut.
It really did sound like he was going to go more into the mother side
Yeah.
of things, but then he kind of decided against it because she ended up just being fucking crazy and was bribed by the
Mm-hmm.
dad. And he was just like, okay, even I don't have time to go over all that again.
Yeah, Locke is being pretty sucky here, though. He's basically going like, "Oh, you guys can't complain because my situation is worse." I'm like, it's not how group meetings work, dude.
Just because you've got it worse does not invalidate their pain.
Mm-hmm. But Terry O'Quinn, he does break out all his acting chops here because he's getting like visibly upset. And this woman played by Katie Sagal, who he previously lingered on, is clearly emotionally affected by his story as well. And he tops it off with an angry comparison. He goes, "Francine wants her $30 back. I want my damn kidney back." And again, like, all right, well, it's okay for both of you to want those things. I'll tell you, there's times where I'd sell my kidney for $30. So
Calm down, Boxman.
yeah, it's not a great look for Johnny overall.
No.
We cut to him outside, and he's having trouble lighting a cig. And Katie Sagal approaches him, and he can't light the cigarette. He fucks it on the ground in frustration, and she knows that that's probably a good idea. And then and then she joshes him. She says, "If you get kidney cancer, at least you've only got one."
Is that a thing? Is
Hold
kidney cancer a thing?
on. Can't everything get cancer theoretically?
I don't
Or
know.
am I totally off there?
I'm going to Google kidney cancer.
I misquoted her there, though. She didn't say at least. She just says, "If you get kidney cancer, you've only got one."
Oh, yes. Kidney cancer is absolutely a thing and it's horrendous. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. I'm going to close that.
But I feel like this lady endears herself to us immediately. She's got great banter. Like she's fantastic in the scene. Her lines are great.
She's very witty.
Yeah, she can handle herself. She can handle John Locke. He concedes that she made it funny. He's like, "Yeah, that's funny." He admits it. And the two of them begin to walk together. Locke apologizes for his outburst, but she's like, "Nah, preach, homie. I feel you. I've always wanted to say that shit." And she's laying it on heavy with the flirting.
Yeah, she's proper into this middle-aged, balding, anger management deficient,
Yeah,
mono-kidneyed individual.
I don't really see the attraction. I mean, she clears it up by saying she likes bald guys, but like he didn't, If I was okay, obviously I can't speak from the position of a woman, but let's say I see someone across a meeting and I think, ooh, they're physically attractive, and then they comport themselves like Locke just did, like threw a little temper tantrum. Basically, I'm not going. I'm getting that motherfucker in bed tonight. Like
Oh, she's got some great banter as well, saying that she's into bald guys.
yeah,
And he's like, I'm not bald. And she says, I can wait.
I can wait. Yeah, fantastic. Great. Yeah, she's very, very witty. It's fantastic. She introduces herself as Helen, and this is a name we've heard John Locke say before.
Indeed, avid viewers who are paying attention will remember that Helen. Am I right in saying this? Because you know me, I've done no fucking research. I just show up on the mic and, riff. But am I right in saying that Helen is who he addresses on the phone in season 1 in the episode Walkabout?
Correct, but it's a different Helen. It is a sex worker on the other end of the line. And this adds a sort of even more tragedy to that scene because presumably their relationship is ended by then. And he has just found a phone sex worker named Helen out of desperation.
Oh, so it's not a retcon.
No, I don't think so. I mean, if it is a retcon, they write it off.
So it is possible it's a retcon, but also possible that he's just so obsessed with Helen after the end of their relationship that he finds a sex worker by the name of Helen.
Well, I think it can be both. I think they wrote that Helen originally without the intention of there being a real Helen, or maybe they did. But either way, it doesn't really matter. It adds a whole new layer of sadness to it.
Or maybe Katie Seagal's going to get into full sex work.
Yeah, I mean, hey, if anyone could do it, I don't know what I mean by that.
Because literally anyone can do it.
I mean, wasn't she always like gagging for it on Married with Children? I haven't actually seen that show, but I know there was a.
I used to love that show as a kid.
Yeah.
And all I remember from it is Al Bundy coming home, just sit on the couch, slip his hands into his belt line, and the whole audience would go, woo! Like, that's all I remember from it. And she had like really big hair and wore leopard print.
Yeah. She had like a beehive almost, didn't she? We're back at the standoff in the hatch. Jack demands for what seems by now to be like the 40th time, "Where's Kate?" How many fucking times have we heard him say this at this point? The show answers that question by cutting back to Kate crawling through the vents again, quiet as a mouse.
Somehow,
total bullshit, as we pointed out last
velvet
episode.
vents.
She opens a cover, like a little another entrance to the vents, basically, and she drops down into a storage area of sorts. She tries the door, which luckily is unlocked, and slides open, and the light from the main area illuminates 2 handguns to her right, just beside the doorway. Kate's lucky streak continues because she has found herself in the fucking armory.
Yeah. Something along the lines of 4 to 5 fuck tons of firearms.
Yeah, metric fuck tons.
Yeah.
She grabs a big old shotgun, she loads it up, and she creeps out to the main area where we hear the conversation in progress. Kate doesn't wait around. She whacks Desmond in the back, and he collapses to the floor while firing off a shot that narrowly misses Jack. And Jack is like, Locke is lucky that Jack didn't take his head off here when that fucking shot went off. Jack secures Desmond on the ground, and Locke tries to calm the situation, but Jack is having none of it. Desmond looks up from the ground to the computer terminal to see a lot of smoke coming out of it.
Oh, no. The computer got hit.
The fucking stray bullet's gone right through it. And he looks very distressed, and in disbelief, he begins to ask Jack, "What did you do?"
Shot the computer, mate. Have you not got eyes? Like,
yeah. Jack looks at the computer, back to Desmond, and then he says, very cheerily, "We're all gonna die. We're all gonna die."
Yeah, because the computer got shot. What?
Hope we find out more about that. We get our title card. We're right back to where we left off. Desmond tries to get up, but Jack pushes him to the ground. Desmond insists that he has to fix this computer. And Jack is confused, but Desmond pleads with him. He says, "If you don't let me up, we're gonna die." Third time he said it now. He tells Jack to look at the wall, and he's like above the fucking computer. He says, "The thing up there, that's a countdown timer." And as we look at it, it flips from 98 to 97. Desmond says he's got to enter the code and quote, "push the button."
That's always annoyed me. They always refer to this as pushing the button. They should be referring to it as entering the code.
Yeah.
Pushing the button doesn't do anything. Although attention to set detail, I love is that the enter button on that is so much more worn down than all the other keys.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
It's a nice little detail.
That is awesome. Yeah, so Desmond says he's got to fix it. He's got to push the button, or what? Asks Jack. Locke says he should let Desmond up, and Jack angrily tells Locke, "Don't tell me what to do." Jack asks Desmond again, "What will happen?" To which Desmond replies, confused and looking at Jack, "Do I know you?" This sort of disarms the situation a little bit.
The spark of recognition.
Yeah. Nobody knows really what's going on for a sec. Locke and Kate look confused, but Jack ignores the question and he instructs Kate to keep her gun on Desmond as he lets him up. So he'd rather fucking let this dude up than acknowledge that spark of recognition, as you put it. Desmond runs over to the computer and he begins to flick the off-on switch. Which,
well, I mean, you start there, right? I mean, everyone's seen the IT crowd.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to do it, but with the smoke and all that. But yeah, fair enough. Bastard, he exclaims, very characteristic of people from our part of the world. Meanwhile, Locke is just staring Jack out of it, and they have this little childish, like, "What?" Jack asks. "Nothing, Jack," he replies.
Jack is so fucking infuriating in this episode.
He is a lunatic, right? Like, he's way off the handle. I mean, I'm chalking it up to not getting a good night's sleep, but there's a clear tension here. But Locke takes this opportunity to flash back again. And Locke and Helen have had a little sleepover. Jared, this is probably the same night, right? Like, he probably went back and they smashed the night of this meeting.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Nice. I mean, she wasn't exactly being subtle about it. So
our boy Johnny Locke laid some pipe.
Yeah, and our girl Katie Segal had some pipe laid. But he's putting on his shoes. He's not hanging around for breakfast. And she wakes up and she asks, "Where are you going?" And he says he has trouble sleeping in a strange bed. She doesn't look too impressed at this, but he says it has nothing to do with her. He really likes her. "I'll call you, baby," you know?
He seems pretty convincing.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like he's shit talking here. He hastily gets the fuck out of there, nonetheless. And then we cut to Locke sitting in his little Volkswagen Beetle, his dinky little car, in the early morning light, and he's drinking a coffee. And he appears to be sitting outside this gated home with a security guard. And it doesn't take a genius to realize that this is fucking Anthony Cooper's house.
But that's a different gate, right? It's a different house.
Yeah, I mean, we do get that confirmed.
Yes, and there is an explanation as to why it's different later in the episode, but I genuinely thought they were going to try and sell it as it's the same house. They just lost the rights to the filming location or something.
That's probably it. That's probably why they included the line. So yeah, speaking of the devil, it is Anthony Cooper. The passenger door opens. The man himself sits inside. It's Locke's daddy. "Morning," he says. Locke looks freaked.
Fucking cheery.
The
balls on him to get into the car.
Locke looks freaked out, and Cooper tells him he's aware that John's been cruising through the hood on the reg, staking out his house from time to time. Cooper even says that after he moved, he thought John might cut it out, but nah. Johnny Locke stalked his new place, and then he expresses his annoyance. And he asks Locke, "What the hell do you want?"
Yeah, so what is Locke doing? Is he just still so hung up on his dad he can't let go of this from the lack of closure? Like, what is going through his head that he has to go and sit outside his dad's house all the time?
Yeah, I was thinking about this. I thought maybe it would be better to discuss on the scene with him and Helen outside the gate, but we can talk about it now if you want.
Oh no, we'll get to it.
Yeah, because it's kind of the emotional climax. I feel like it's important then. Locke composes himself, but you can still see that he's pretty frazzled, and he simply asks why.
Yeah. Even Cooper doesn't really get the question. Like, why? What? Come on, elaborate. Use your words.
Yeah, at least he's playing dumb because John just says it again. Why? And Cooper gets it, and he answers pretty fucking bluntly. He says there is no why. You needed a father figure. I needed a kidney, and that's what happened. And I'm like, okay, but like, you got to keep the kidney though, and he didn't get to keep the father figure, so it's not exactly a fair trade. But he tells him to get over it and not to come back because he's not wanted. And this is just devastatingly brutal.
Yeah. He's just out and out cold. Like, he's harsh with John here.
Yeah.
But he does just want him to fuck off. Like, I mean, he made a deal unbeknownst to Johnny Locke that, you know, he explicitly says John needed a father figure, he needed a kidney, so they helped each other out for a while. But as soon as he got his, bounced.
Yeah.
And there is no remorse there. He doesn't care.
And the writers have done something clever here because Anthony Cooper's initials, AC, a cunt. So he gets out the car and Locke breaks down. It's very tough to watch. Like he's fucking shattered. He's devastated. His
Although he does
world...
take a very calm sip of his coffee.
Yeah.
I was expecting him to like fuck it in the car or something like that, you know, like rah.
Yeah. That's classic John Locke as well. He does like a little tantrum.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, completely warranted in this case, but yeah, no,
Completely.
he handles himself relatively well considering that his world was just fucking turned by this prick. Back at the hatch, Desmond is frantically running around and he's powering up like various machines and shit scattered throughout the station. Kate's following him with the barrel of the gun on him, despite Locke's suggestions that it's unnecessary.
Yeah, there is a bit of a detail here. Despite the fact that there's a gun on him, Desmond doesn't even acknowledge it. He doesn't acknowledge that he, you know, there's a gun being pointed at him this entire time, which really tells us how serious he thinks this situation is.
There are much bigger fish to fry.
Yeah,
in his mind. Desmond begins to pull books and videos off shelves. He's looking for something clearly, and Locke offers to help. And Desmond's like, "Can you fix a computer?" No, then piss off. Basically, like not a direct quote. He has no time for any fucking dilly dallying. Kate suggests Saeed can fix the computer. And Locke is like, yeah, go get him. And Jack surprisingly doesn't protest, which I thought meant that he sort of is also putting stock in what Desmond was saying, but we learn later that that's clearly not the case. Why do you think Jack doesn't protest here?
I think it's because he's just watching this flurry of events happening before his very eyes that he's not going to get involved in this shit. He's literally just watching all of this happen. Desmond is a demented man on a mission. So if Jack were to get in his way, no. Just sit back and, you know, wait till things calm down for a sec.
And I guess it's pretty clear that this man that had them at gunpoint, the threat has pretty much dissipated since that computer got hit with a bullet, right? He doesn't seem to want to, you know, get one over on them anymore.
Yes, exactly.
Kate asks Desmond if there's a front door, and Desmond directs her down the corridor to the left. So she fucks
very
off.
Casually. He doesn't even look or anything. And he's no qualms about giving away the location of this other edge. He's like, oh yeah, just down the corridor on the left. It's so casual, like he's giving her directions to the jacks.
He gives her advice on it even. He's like, be persistent, the wheel gets stuck.
That's a great little line to throw in.
Yeah. It's like you said, giving someone directions to the jacks, like you have to jiggle the key a little bit because it doesn't, Desmond finds a jar of something. Oh, yeah, he says, like it's exactly what he was looking for. He pegs it over the computer with Locke in tow. Kate's down the hall. She's struggling with the wheel on the door as predicted, but she manages and in the end disappears through it. We're back to Desmond in the computer room. He lays the jar down and he begins to fiddle with something. I don't think it's the computer. I think he's too far away from it, but he's examining something. I couldn't really see what. But Jack comes in, yoink, takes the jar, and he points the gun at him. And he demands to know what the fuck is going on.
I want answers, damn it. I want the truth.
Locke protests again, but he should know better by now. Why does he keep going? Like, Jack, no. Jack insists they all take a time out, and he asks Desmond, how did you get here? Desmond said he got there 3 years ago on a race around the world, which, remember, he did mention he was going to do when he met Jack in the stadium that time.
Exactly, just to really drive it home with the audience that, yes, this is the same man.
This is the dude, yeah. His boat crashed into the reef, and he was found by someone named Kelvin.
Interesting name.
Yeah. A bit of trivia about that, actually. Kelvin seemed to be in a hurry, and he rushed Desmond off. This is how Desmond recounts it, at least. He rushes Desmond off with him to the hatch, and the alarm was going off as they got back there. So he types in the code to the computer, hits execute. Desmond asks him, what was all that about? Kelvin said, just saving the world. Jack seems incredulous, and Desmond says he started pushing the button too from that day on, and that he and Kelvin saved the world together for a time until Kelvin died. And now he's all alone. The end.
So this is very reminiscent of, I should have done more research on this, but I remember reading one time about an experiment involving monkeys.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know anything about with this, where I'm going?
I know where you're going. I don't have any more details on the experiment than you do, or less if you have any. But yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I don't even know if it was a real experiment or hypothetical, but it's like you have a room full of monkeys and there's a button. And every time one of the monkeys pushes the button, the floor underneath them gets electrocuted, or they get sprayed with water, or something negative happens to them. So eventually, anytime a monkey goes to push the button, the other monkeys stop him. But then eventually, as time goes on, monkeys die, new monkeys are introduced. And when the new monkeys are introduced, they don't know what the story is. They go to push the button, but the monkeys who are already there tell them, no, you can't do that. So then the new monkeys learn button bad, button bad, in the words of the great and wise philosopher Walt 2 episodes ago, button bad, right? But then as more and more new monkeys come in and the old monkeys, cross the rainbow bridge and whatever, you have a room full of monkeys that have no idea what this button does, but they're all conditioned to know you don't push that button. And it's like I think it's just a thought experiment to kind of demonstrate what am I trying to say here? Certain attitudes we have towards things in society, certain opinions that we have, they're just inherited, and we might not be able to logically argue them or explain them or
systems of belief
them.
even.
Systems of belief, yeah. I think it was about religion initially.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's how Christianity has kept going for 2,000 years, right?
Yeah, actually, that is, yeah, it's exactly how Christianity's been going.
I mean, you erase Christianity from everybody's mind today, and the world is as it is, and nobody's gonna fucking come up with it again, But yeah, Jack does later on suggest something similar as well. We'll get to that, but he's satisfied for now with Desmond's story. He hands him the jar. We get an ominous shot. There's a lot of ominous shots of the timer, of the countdown timer in this episode. It flips to 84 minutes remaining. Desmond grabs the jar. He begins fiddling with the computer. Jack takes Locke aside and he expresses his skepticism about all this fucking button crack. He says, "You're going to take his word." Locke says Desmond's word is all they have.
Which is true.
It is true. But Desmond throws him a bone. He says, "You don't have to take my word. You can just watch the film. It's on the bookcase, top shelf behind Turn of the Screw, and the projector's in the pantry." Locke is on that like flies on shite. He's like, there's a movie. He runs out. Jack soon follows. Locke pulls out the Turn of the Screw, and he finds it, pulls it out of the bookcase, and then just fucks it away. Like doesn't gently lay it down or anything. He's just like, this is the last thing standing in my way between me and answers. Have you read that book by any chance?
No, I have not.
It is by who wrote it? I should have wrote this down.
Turn of the Screw. Is that not Dickens?
It's not Dickens. It was published in 1898. It was Henry James.
Henry James.
It's a horror classic. I just read a book about horror books, and it mentioned that one. But yeah, Locke has no respect for the classics. He fucks it away, and then he pulls out a film reel in would you call that a canister or something? Like whatever, the box that it's in.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, it's Dharma marked, and on the side it says orientation with the swan logo. We cut back to the beach where Hurley's playing with Vincent in broad daylight. It's weird cutting from the dark hatch to the middle of the day. And I know we've already seen the daytime with the guys thrown in the pit, but I don't know. I just found it jarring in this scene for some reason. I was like, oh yeah, shit, it's morning now.
Isn't it supposed to still be the middle of the night?
It depends on how late Jack and them went in there. Like, let me see.
How much time has passed? How long does it take to get to the hatch?
Well, we have an actual timer here, right? Desmond made Locke put the numbers in when Locke went down there. Do you remember? And now, last we saw, the timer was at 84 minutes. So that's like 15 minutes.
Right.
25 minutes.
Yeah, not a lot of time at all.
Yeah, unless they went in just right before daybreak, I don't know.
And people are not waking up from, sleeping at the caves or whatever, where Jack left them. They're all on the fucking beach.
It's there's a little time inconsistency here. When you notice something like that, the island did it. Saeed shows up behind Hurley and he's dragging a large trunk, and Hurley runs up to give him a hand. And he says, "Whoa, things are pretty touch and go there for a sec, but now everything should go right back to normal." And then Kate enters, shouting frantically for Saeed. "Ah, crap," says Hurley immediately. This is
brilliant.
It's a very contrived moment of comic relief, but I still chuckled. Do you know what I mean?
I loved it. I love it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just biased towards Hurley. I love anything to do with Hurley. I think his writing is so good. The comedy is so good that even in such a tense moment like this, no one is able to provide more humorous and comedic, a genuinely comedic moment in a tense situation like Hurley Cat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so naturally as well.
I don't know if it was naturally. I thought, like I said, I thought this one was a little bit hokey, but I still chuckled. I'm not saying it wasn't funny. Kate tells Saeed that they need his help. We cut back to our Rafties pit, where Sawyer's questioning Jin on his short history with these alleged others. And Jin obviously can't communicate much that's of use, but the lads
fucking pointlessly. If someone cannot speak a word of the language you do, why are you still asking him questions?
Now, having said that, Jin does all right because Michael asks if he's seen Walt. Sawyer asks how many others there are, and Jin manages to mime that he was blindfolded, right? And I love how Michael goes blindfolded, and Jin goes like, And I'm like, you don't know that he said the right word.
No,
you don't know that word. Like, no way you picked that one up. Even if his English was picking up pretty good, that one wouldn't come up in. Anyway, Sawyer theorizes that there could be like 100 of them, and he obviously likes those odds because he tells the lads to boost them up. And they do so. He tries to move the cage, but it's weighted, or tied down or some shit. I think it's tied down, right? We see Mr. Echo do it later on.
Yep.
But Sawyer gets them to boost him a little higher before a knife shoots through an opening in the cage, which startles him and sends him tumbling to the floor of the pit.
There's no way he wouldn't have seen Echo approach with that knife before he had a chance to slide it in. He would have seen him coming.
Yeah, so it's the big imposing dude from earlier, who we will later come to know as Echo. He's just looming ominously outside the pit with a sort of fuck around and find out look on his face.
Yeah, he's keeping watch. It's what they should have expected.
And then he opens the cage door and he drops another person down into the pit before quickly closing it and tying it shut. The lads approach their new roommate to reveal she's a woman, seemingly unconscious with like a cut or a gash on her face. I guess she was just beaten over the face. That's why she's unconscious.
And if we're paying close attention, we should be able to recognize her at this point because we've seen her before.
Yeah, that's true. It's a girl, exclaims Michael. And yeah, like you said, you can note that we have met this woman before.
Yes, and thank you for that very helpful observation, Michael.
Yeah.
It's a girl.
It's a girl.
Done. Well done. Well done. Welcome to the conversation.
He's like, okay, great. Yeah, so it's not Walt. You can go back to screaming his name now. Back at the hatch, John opens up the film reel canister while Jack sets up the projector. Jack asks what happened down here before he showed up. Oh, we can tell you, Jack. We've seen it about 40 times.
Right.
Locke tells him he pretty much got the gist of it. Jack, there's a lot of fucking back and forth arguing between Jack and Locke in this episode. This is no different. He tells Locke, you seem awful calm if you believe the world's going to end in 45 minutes. But Locke is confident Desmond will fix it.
Yeah, but here's the thing, right? There's this common belief down in the hatch between Desmond and John that this button needs to be pushed every 108 minutes or the world is going to end. John is going along with it. And for some reason, like, sure, granted, this seems a little bit irrational based on the lack of evidence to our man of science, Jack. But he is getting irrationally enraged by this.
A lot of people fly off the handle emotionally in this episode. I mean, John Locke and Jack do at different points. Tensions are high. Again, chalk it up to a bad sleep, lad. They've been up all night. They had a stressful day yesterday.
That's a good point, actually. A lot of stress, no sleep. When was the last time you saw him eat? Come on now. He hasn't, or a shit for that matter.
As far as I know, Jack has slept. They mentioned they've been on the island for 44 days. Jack has probably slept for a total of 44 hours in that time, like a cumulative.
Although we did see him in season 1, like quite early, I think in season 1, like going on his little fever dream, vision quest through the woods, like literally out of a lack of sleep. So they have addressed that.
Yeah, I think it's safe to assume that Jack is always sleep deprived, and that explains why he's either a complete plank or a fucking psychopath, like flying off the handle.
Not a great state of mind for your one and only doctor on the island to be in.
Speaking of that state of mind, Jack thinks that what Desmond has laid out about this button and all shit is insane. It's impossible. Why is it insane? Asks Locke. Jack says a weird thing here. He says, last time I saw a computer that was going to save the world, it didn't look like that. Is he just making a joke, or is he commenting on sort of like how outdated the technology is?
I have no idea. That line is written in there as if it was a reference to something we've seen in the show already, but we haven't. So I don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
The one way I took it was just a joke, like, oh, the last time I saw a computer that saved the world, as in I never fucking saw a computer that saves the world because it doesn't exist, right? That's probably it.
Even then, that's a stretch.
But he could also be thinking like, if a computer was going to save the world, it would be at least running Windows 95, not this shit. Locke then asks Jack if he's upset because Desmond recognizes him. And Jack is just fucking deflecting any mention of this. He ignores the question, but John persists. He said, now that would be impossible.
No flies on Johnny.
He's great at making a point. He always has a good counter argument, John Locke.
Yeah.
He was probably in debate club. Jack pulls up a screen, like a projector screen, unfurls it, and the film begins on screen for the audience with the title card reading "The Dharma Initiative, 3 of 6 orientation."
Oh, was it 3 of 6? I thought it was 3 of 5.
3 of 6, which implies that there is more of this shit. Hell yeah, get hype. And some dissonant synthy music plays over it. I have a bit of trivia about this that I think you're going to love. And I didn't notice it, right, about this music. Yeah, but you're going to like, I'll wait till the trivia section, right?
Oh, man. Cock tease.
So there's this synthy music. It's weird. It's like synthy, but kind of like, it sounds like Far Eastern music as well. Do you get me?
It's kind of got that Eastern mysticism, but new wave synth pop flavor to it.
It could be a theremin even. Like it's got that sort of synthy sound.
Nah,
maybe not. Maybe theremin's too high pitched.
Well, no. I mean, theremin can be low pitch as well. But the thing about a theremin is there's no space between any of the notes being played. True. Whereas this is do 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 do. Whereas a theremin would be.
Was that the actual melody you're humming there?
The music for the tape. Do 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 do. It's something like that, isn't it?
Okay, it is. You're not hearing the trivia point in there?
No.
Okay, we'll get to
it. I've got it. It's the lost credits music at the end.
The end credits music.
Holy shit!
It's the same. It uses the same.
Oh fuck! It actually is.
Yeah. It's that awesome,
man. Holy shit!
Yeah, it's a great bit of trivia. I didn't notice it, and then I went back and listened to it, and I was like, hell yeah.
If you hadn't have drawn my attention to it, I wouldn't have got it.
So we get this dissonant synthy music, and Locke looks like a kid who's about to watch a new Star Wars movie. He is fucking pumped. Like the Swan graphic appears on screen, and then the Dharma logo sort of forms around it. And there's new text below. It says orientation, station 3, the Swan. A man in a lab coat with a Dharma logo on it appears on screen. He welcomes the viewer and he introduces himself as Dr. Marvin Candle.
Which is not what I was expecting him to introduce himself as, because I thought I remembered the name of this character.
Yeah. He might be using a pseudonym in this case.
I imagine he fucking is, because we learn his name is Pierre Chang later in the show, I think.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, he uses a pseudonym here. Marvin Candle is a fucking great fake name.
Marvin Candle.
So Candle explains that the viewer, he's addressing the viewer this whole time. So he's like, you and your partner will be given instructions on how to fulfill the responsibilities of this station momentarily. But first, here's a little history. Takes him down memory lane. So we get all this huge info dump about the Dharma Initiative, and it's like, fucking hook it to my veins. I forgot how much of the actual the history behind it was in this. It's pretty dense, right? Like,
no, I actually had a good memory of the origins of the Dharma Initiative, because they only give it to you once, maybe twice in a later season or whatever. So you really have to pay attention to it. Like this couple, the De Groots, they get financial backing by this Alvar Hanzo to basically start a scientific commune where they can work unimpeded. But it also seems a bit shady, like it's to be away from government regulation as well, right?
Yeah. The whole thing's a little bit weird. I guess a lot of the information you get isn't super relevant, but it is quite revealing. So yeah, like you said, the initiative was created in 1970. Gerald and Karen de Groot are the names of the couple, two doctoral candidates at the University of Michigan. They're shown on screen, and they're like this typical 70s hippie adjacent academic white couple, I would say. Picture that in your head, like people who are part of the flower power movement who have gone corporate now, basically.
Yes.
The video jumps a little bit here and there, suggesting some wear and tear, and this will become a lot more apparent as we go along. Candle explains that the groups, like you said, imagined a large-scale communal research compound where scientists from around the globe could pursue research in a number of fields. He lists the fields here. He says meteorology, psychology, parapsychology, zoology, and there's kind of footage of various scientific experiments over this. And notably, when he says zoology, we get an image of two polar bears fighting.
Like, as soon as I saw that, I was like, stop calling it zoology. Call it like Ursology or whatever it is. Like, it's literally just a study of bears here at this point.
Well, we don't know that. We did see a Dharma shark do in the last ep. Although that could be marine biology, I guess, or marine zoology.
Do you reckon that those sharks have lasers on their heads and they're there to guard the looking glass?
Almost certainly. What a great Easter egg that would be if they would.
Yeah.
He also mentions electromagnetism and utopian social, but it cuts off here, right? And the movie jumps ahead in the middle of talking about to the middle of talking about a reclusive Danish industrialist and munitions magnate, Alvar Hanso. And this guy basically bankrolled the De Groot's social science research facility, they call it. Then Candle gets to the business at hand. The film is for the Station 3, the Swan, and the Watcher and their partner, he notes, are only supposed to be stationed there for 540 days, which is significantly less than the 3 years that Desmond says he's been there.
Right.
So it looks like nobody's coming. Candle says the station was originally constructed as a laboratory where scientists could study, quote, the unique electromagnetic fluctuations emanating from this sector of the island, end quote, until there was an incident. Now, it is interesting that, he says the island. I mean, it doesn't seem as capital I as some other people say, not like they see it as this sentient place, but they certainly understand the significance, importance, and specialness of it.
And they're trying to use science to examine it.
Yeah. So ever since the incident, Desmond's the protocol that Desmond talks about must be observed. The button must be pushed, even Candle says it that way. Yeah. The button must be pushed every 108 minutes. He goes on to warn the viewer not to attempt to use the computer for anything, but then he gets cut off.
Now, hold on. It does not make sense that they need to input the numbers every time they push the button.
Why is that?
Because if they don't push the button, the world ends. So why would you password protect it? Can somebody answer that?
That's a good point. Why have I never thought about that before? It should be really easy to not end the world.
And you can't say that like, oh, you have to input these specific numbers, coordinates, measurements, whatever they are, so that it can then calculate from them into the thing. No, because it's the same fucking numbers every time.
Maybe
this is some terrible programming.
Maybe the Dharma Initiative did such weird, dodgy shit that they would rather, if somebody stumbled onto their research station, they would rather destroy the evidence with the world than have it leak what kind of shit they were up to there.
Yeah, but I mean, they've got electronics and shit down there. This does not make any sense. That hatch is a prison. If they needed somebody to push the button every 108 minutes, I mean, look at the shit they built down here. They could have easily fabricated some slightly higher tech version of the dipping bird with the water in it to literally push this. Why did they have to have two people down there imprisoned for 540 days at a time? This makes no sense.
Ooh, okay. So what if, Jack suggests a social experiment later on? What if they're both right? What if they just took the opportunity to make it a social experiment? They're like, oh, we might as well get some use out of these people, protecting the world.
Okay, that explanation is also bullshit, but I'm much closer to accepting that.
It wouldn't be out of character for the Dharma Initiative. Candle concludes by saying the station is now in your hands until your replacement arrives, and he ends with thank you and namaste. And a good luck.
One small correction. He says the fate of the world is in your hands. Like that is, the fate of the world is in your hands. So no pressure. Okay.
I wonder what the salary is like for this shit. Anyway, copyright the Hansel Foundation, 1980.
Salary?
Yeah, for
salary.
Well, Desmond's fucking.
What's Desmond going to spend it on? Where is he going to spend it?
So Jack and Locke sit in silence before Locke says, "We need to watch that again." Flashback. Locke and Helen are at a fancy ass restaurant, and she has a small, nicely packaged gift for him for their 6-month anniversary. Locke is mortal because he got her nothing, but Helen's like, "It's fine. It only cost me $1. $1. Big spender." He opens it, and it is a key to her place. Damn,
that's a nice step
serious. It is, yeah. It's a sweet way of doing it as well. Helen says that the gift comes with a condition, however. He has to stay over for the whole night, implying that for 6 months he's been getting up and fucking off in the morning every time he stays there.
Yeah.
That ain't nothing. John asks her, "What do you mean?" And she says that she followed him last night to what she assumes, because she's a smart lady, is his dad's house. And John is pretty annoyed at this. He asks her why she would do such a thing, that it's his personal life, it's his business. And Helen very fairly, I would say, says that she wants to know where he goes when he sneaks off in the night. But Locke's like, no, that's my shit.
Now, hold on. Why is that better than just asking him? Should she not have just asked him, "Hey, I've noticed you disappear in the night. Where do you go?" Or is that just giving him the opportunity to give her some bullshit like, "I go for a walk"?
I mean, it's possible she did ask him before. The first time it happened, she asked him and he said he had trouble sleeping in an unfamiliar bed, right? So she's had to have asked him since then.
Yeah, but if you're sleeping there 6 months, it's not an unfamiliar bed
Exactly.
anymore. Sorry,
exactly. Yeah.
That don't wash anymore.
Yeah, you're right. If she went from 0 to stalking him, that would be pretty crazy. But Helen doesn't seem like that. You have to assume that she's quizzed him a few more times and he's given an excuse every time. And then at that point, it would be fair for her to think like, oh, what if this dude's married or something? What if he's like getting back to the wife and kids? I get it.
Yeah.
Helen, Locke says it's his business. Helen says she wasted 20 years being angry, but that Locke has helped her to get over this anger, that she couldn't do it alone, but he helped her. And she offers to return the favor if he promises not to stalk his dad anymore.
And with his fingers crossed behind his back.
Yeah, he agrees. He pockets the key to confirm his commitment, and they share a very lovely kiss.
Oh, very sweet.
Yeah, it is. It's nice to see two older people, two people of their age. Not that they're all super old, but two middle-aged people as well share such a passionate kiss on television. I feel like the older people get, the less people are comfortable with sexualizing them on screen, and it's just nice to see.
Yeah, you never see it on screen. I mean, it's as prevalent in the real world as it is with young people. Like,
yeah,
TV skews your view of the world if you believe that old people don't have sex, for example.
Yeah, and this is like a good kiss. You know what I mean? It's passionate. It's a little hot. It's way too much for the fancy restaurant that they're in. I love it.
Okay, yeah, it is a little bit too much, public display of affection. I mean, I personally wouldn't have a problem with it, but
nah,
the general public tend to get very uncomfortable about that sort of thing.
Yeah. Anyway, we stand that kiss.
Read the room.
Back in the hatch, Locke is loading the projector up for round 2, but Jack's not really feeling the vibe.
Jack is signing John up for his new bank and offering up 6 months of 0% interest here. He's like, "No, I am not watching this again. You can fuck right off." But the funny thing is, Jack of all people, I would have expected to want to watch that again, because Jack is the man of science who's demanding answers for all this bullshit. Here's a tape that seems to be offering somewhat of an explanation from, I'm not going to say it's a reputable institution. We don't know about its reputation, but it's an established institution offering answers on this construction that he's in. And Jack's like, "No, do you know what? I've seen it once. I'm still not buying it." Like, he's not just not convinced, he's in straight up denial about this.
It is possible that he thought because of all the cuts and shit like that, the movie was very shoddily made. And because we think that he thinks it's a social experiment, he might have thought, oh, this is their attempt to give it an air of legitimacy, but I'm not buying it. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I take your point. I did have that thought as well. I still would have thought he would have liked to examine it at least one more time, but he seems pretty certain after one viewing this is bullshit.
Yeah, right.
We're back in the pit, and this woman that was thrown in is waking up. She gets up. She asks who the boys are. Michael explains that their plane crashed on the way from Sydney to LA, and she seems shocked. And she asks, was it flight 815? And they're all shocked. They conclude that this lady was on the flight too. In the back, Michael very astutely observes. He asks her what happened, the back of the plane. What happened? She tells him she got knocked out by some falling luggage during the crash. She woke up underwater. She swam to shore. And ever since then, she's been surviving. Sawyer's like, damn, you've been alone this whole time? She said she's been looking for people and that these alleged others found her yesterday. She has no idea who their captors are, however, and then Mike asks her the question that he's been asking everything with a fucking hole in a heartbeat. He says, have you seen Walt? You see my son, 10-year-old boy?
Dog with a bone. Let the kid go, man.
Yeah, get over it, dude.
Maybe he feels a little too much.
The lady hasn't seen Walt, however, but she introduces herself as Ana Lucia, which confirms, if you didn't know it already, that this is Jack's post-body identification flirt from Sydney Airport. She gets all their names, Sawyer, Michael, Jin, and Sawyer says they're about to be the best thing to ever happen to her. And then he takes out his gun and racistly calls the dude Shaft.
Is it racist?
I mean, he's calling him that because he's black, right? It's similar to calling Saeed like fucking Aladdin or something.
Oh, ooh. Well, I mean, he's big, black, and muscly. Like, this is purely based on appearances. Sawyer is not racist in that way. Sawyer just gives nicknames. He's been given nicknames based on appearance, regardless of race.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. I don't know that I really know what Shaft looks like. Is he big and muscly?
Yeah, Shaft, big, black, although he had an afro, very intimidating looking dude.
I'm looking at him now, and he is what I thought. Like, he's well dressed, but I think his like clothes do sort of hide like a pretty thick physique, right? Like he's a big dude.
Yeah. Although
Yeah,
Shaft was never afraid to get his hands dirty, and this dude literally clobbered them over the fucking head with a plank of wood. So maybe it's not just in appearances.
I always thought of him as like a smooth talker rather than a strong man, but now that I'm looking at him, yeah, okay, that's fair enough. All right, well then maybe it is just a looks comparison. So Sawyer brandishes his gun and he says, "We're about to be the best thing that ever happened to you." When Shaft comes back, he's gonna get a little howdy doody. We're back to the hatch, and Desmond is fiddling with the computer while Jack quizzes him. He asks if Des has contact with the people who made the movie, or contact with anyone for that matter. That'd be nice. Desmond says he wouldn't be here if he did have contact. Fair enough. Jack is still pretty skeptical. He doesn't really believe that Desmond doesn't know about the crash. But Desi says that, due to the 108-minute timer, he doesn't get out much.
Yeah.
Jack asks Desmond where his food comes from, but he ignores the question, which Jack doesn't really follow up on, because he quickly proceeds to call bullshit on the whole thing because no one's gotten sick among the survivors, which he concludes means the quarantine stamp is just a scare tactic to keep him down there.
That is a logical point to,
yeah,
it's a logical conclusion.
I thought it was a good argument, honestly. He posits that the whole button pushing thing is just a social experiment just to see if he would do it. And I think this is actually great seed planting in the audience's mind here. Like he said, he makes a good point about the quarantine. He might actually be onto something. I mean, we don't know yet, right? Like I guess the show is giving us the option of whether we want to take a leap of faith with Locke, or
I fully believe that's the entire point of it. It's to make us question our beliefs about what's going on. Exactly.
It's given us enough doubt, which is really great. It's very involving writing and storytelling. Like,
this is just par for the course with Lost. It's just presenting us with another mystery.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Desmond, so yeah, Jack says, you ever think about that? You ever think maybe this is a fucking scientific experiment? And Desmond quickly disarms Jack by saying that he thinks about that every single day. And of course he would. Of course you start to have your doubts. Like, it seems so obvious. He really hopes that that's the case, considering the crock of shite they currently find themselves in. But he also says that the film mentions electromagnetism and that his feelings hurt every time he walks by that concrete wall in the corridor. This is the one we saw before that was pulling Jack's key.
Yeah, we've seen that demonstrated. There is a very high magnetic, like very strong magnetic field there.
So something's going on here. We know that.
Something's fucky.
The timer clicks ominously once again from 50 to 49, and Desmond seems to be ready. He blesses himself and he tries the computer switch, only for a fuse to blow and cut the power to the entire fucking station,
That
plunging
was just
them.
comical.
Yeah, plunging them into darkness. The backup power comes on shortly after, but it's very dim light. And Desmond starts freaking the fuck out. Like, the situation just went from bad to worse. Locke comes in to see what the fuck just happened and he notices that the computer looks more fried than ever before. It's over, Desmond proclaims, and he bombs it out of the room.
Oh, he just full on freaks the fuck out now at this stage. Whereas before he had some amount of hope that he could get it fixed, but nope, not anymore.
Yeah, he had his eye on the ball before, and now he's fucking kicked the ball into the Tropes and is running away from it. So he bombs it out of the room. Jack and Locke follow him. The timer clicks once more down to 48. Desmond opens the pantry and he begins filling a bag with food rapidly. Locke comes in behind him and he asks him if he's leaving. Desmond ignores him. He runs to the medicine cabinet. He grabs a handful of vials and the inoculation gun. We get a quick shot of a book lying on his bed, and boom, there it is. The Third Policeman by Flann O'Brien, which was mentioned, it was brought to our attention in an email from, I want to say a listener, but I don't think he is, from one-time show contributor Sean, a friend of ours who mentioned, he had a great email where he asked us about books and literature featured in the show, and he did mention that at some point, even though he hadn't seen Lost, he had heard that Flann O'Brien's The Third Policeman comes up. Irish author.
Yeah.
Happy days. I haven't read it, so I don't really know anything about the plot or whether it's significant. In my trivia research, I did see that there was a number of books that can be seen in the hatch that deal with mysteries and secret identities.
Ah, interesting. Because I know that we did talk a lot about this when we read out Sean's email, however long ago that was. But I honestly have forgotten all of my information on the research of that related to Third Policeman.
Yeah, me too. Maybe I probably should have looked into it a little bit more for the purposes of this episode. It took me by surprise because I didn't know this was the context it was going to come up in. I thought it might be a later character, Benjamin Linus. He talks about books a lot. He's like, there's a lot of book related scenes around him, and I just assumed it would be one of his.
Yeah, Linus is fond of an old book now, to be fair.
Anyway, sorry. Maybe we can get a bit more on that in a later episode. But for now, Locke tries to assure Desmond that Saeed's on the way. And Desmond's like, oh, cool. Yeah, tell him I said hello. And then he runs off down the hall. Locke follows him. Jack notices a photo beside the bed of Desmond and an unknown woman, clearly a romantic partner of his. And I have a bit of trivia about that.
It was photographed against a green screen.
That's not my trivia, but you're probably right.
Yeah, because we see it later on. Not a green screen, but I do remember the scene of that photo being taken. They have like a screen pulled down behind them, I think.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, that rings a bell now. But yeah, the trivia is actually about the actress that appears in the photo next to Henry Ian Cusick, who plays Desmond. Locke gives chase to Desmond. Once again, I feel like I've said that a few times now. He's chasing him around as he's moving through the hatch, telling him that he can't leave, but Desmond is having none of it. He tells him he's going to go as far as he can run, and he fucks off out the main door. Jack shows up, and Locke asks him what they should do, and Jack says, we should do nothing, because none of it is real. Locke is visibly frustrated now. Like he's on his Jack shit now. He's like, he shouts, "This isn't what's supposed to happen." Jack laughs it off, and Locke, in a moment that is incredibly desperate for him, he begs him to stay. He says he can't do this alone. He needs Jack's help, but Jack says he's on his own, and he fucks off out the front door too. Locke re-enters the computer dome. Timer reads 47 minutes. He paused helplessly at the computer terminal. He's like, maybe I can do something with it, but it's fucking hopeless. He has no idea. He accidentally knocks over a toolbox in his frustration. He stoops to pick it up. And as he's loading the tools back in, he questions aloud, "Why is this happening? What do you want?" And his anger boils over. He hits the side of the desk in frustration and screams, "What am I supposed to do?"
And this is why I hate religion, because it survives on people reaching their lowest points like this. When people are confused, they're scared, they're desperate, that's when they turn to religion. And that's what we see Johnny doing here. He's questioning God, the island, the universe, whatever higher fucking power he believes in. He's just voicing this out loud.
Praying for a sign and thinking that because things aren't going the way he thinks they're supposed to be, that he's being punished or something,
right?
Or that he's doing something wrong. Yeah, it's tragic. John's freaking out. We get a flashback. Helen is asleep in her bed, and Locke is lying wide awake beside her. He goes into the jacks to splash some water on his face, shirtless, and he notices the kidney surgery scar on his side. He runs his hand over it. And we all know it's coming, but it's no less disappointing.
It didn't take him fucking much to break his promise.
Nah, I mean, we don't know what the time jump has been, but presumably not that long, right? It could be that night for all we know.
True.
We cut to him sitting in his car outside Cooper's house. Once again, his promise to Helen broken. Suddenly, headlights appear behind him, and his car is fucking like bumped from behind, like enough to jolt him.
Oh, she's not fucking around.
No, it's Helen, and she is pissed. She gets out of her car. She reaches in through John's open driver's seat window. She takes the keys from the ignition and she bounds towards the house. Locke gets out to chase her, but he's too late. She fucks the keys over the gate.
I gotta be honest, I was expecting her to throw the keys, but when she threw them over the gate, I was like, oh, that's salt in the wound.
Yeah, ice cold. But she's not fucking around. Locke asks why she's doing this, and Helen hits him with a fucking truth slap. Cooper is not coming out because he doesn't give a shit about Locke, and Locke is scared to move forward.
Yeah, but Locke should already know this. Cooper told him to his face he doesn't care.
Yeah, she gives him an ultimatum. It's him or me, basically. Locke says he can't do it, and he flips out again. He's visibly upset, but he breaks down.
Mm-hmm.
And he says he doesn't know how to move on.
Yeah, this is Locke, again, at one of his lowest points. Which is funny, because for a lot of characters, they do hit, their lowest point at some stage across the series. Locke keeps finding lower and lower points to hit.
It's like he's fallen through like the floor, and he hits the next floor down, and then that floor breaks.
Well, speaking of Locke hitting floors, we still haven't found out how he ends up in the wheelchair.
True that. It wasn't this episode either. But Helen says that nobody, the uncertainty is what's stopping him. Nobody knows what's going to happen. You just have to take a leap of faith. This is okay. So I think this is a good time to talk about why I think Locke was doing this the whole time, right? This to me is just incredibly complex psychological character writing here.
You think?
Yeah, I think this is incredible. Like Locke's whole life up to this point has been defined by uncertainty, right? Not feeling like he had a place. His parents abandoned him as a child. He grew up in an orphanage. He had foster parents. We thought he lost a foster sister. We know all this tragic history about him, right? And then he meets his father, this dude who convinced him that he finally has a place, like somewhere, a connection, a constant, something that makes sense.
Yeah.
And even after his father fucked him over in just an indescribably cruel way, John would rather stay in that fucked up place than go back to a life of uncertainty. That's how scary it was before. It's amazingly deep TV for the time and for the medium, for network television. It's amazingly deep character writing, I think.
It really is, and it makes me, and I assume like the audience at large, uncomfortable to confront these kinds of ways that someone can just be fucked over.
Absolutely.
Because it's all so possible. Not only is it possible, shit like this literally happens every day around the world.
Yeah. I sometimes forget, and then I rewatch it, like the emotional weight that some of these characters in Lost carry. Like Sawyer's history is fucking heavy as well. You know what I mean?
Tragic.
This
Yeah.
stuff, these people are all very messed up in very real ways. I mean, a lot of it's obviously drama and like, but it doesn't always feel crazily exaggerated. It feels like the way that these people would react, that normal people would react to these situations being put on them. This scene blew me away because that all occurred to me, and this is a TV show in 2005, and it's just says some incredible things about the human condition. It's really great, and I fucking love this scene.
It's fucking phenomenal. I mean, there's two sides of the writing in Lost, in that there's all the mysteries of the island and the lore, and then there's all the human aspect, the relationships, what George R. R. Martin says, the war, the heart at war with itself, all that stuff, right? Which I hate. Just keep giving me the lore. When I'm sorry, but when we saw Jack and Locke sitting down, and as this movie was playing, the orientation video, I'm sorry to go back to it, but I was, every second of it that played, I was in a little bit of disbelief that, wow, the show is giving us this much.
Yeah.
The show never wastes an opportunity to drag a mystery out for an entire season. Although, granted, it did raise more questions than it answered, for example.
I have to assume you're being tongue in cheek when you say that, though. Like what works about Lost is the mysteries along with the character drama, right? It balances the two so perfectly.
Yeah.
At least for these first few seasons. We could talk later on about whether they keep that up, but I think it's a show that's very confident in itself at the moment.
You see, in mentioning those two sides of the writing, each side has its own mileage. And before the end of the series, one of them runs out before the other.
Yeah, I agree. We'll say no more about it for now. There'll be plenty of time for that. 5 more years, baby.
Oh, fuck.
But so Helen sums it up. She says, no one knows what's going to happen. She recognizes this fear of uncertainty in Locke. She says, no one knows what's going to happen. That's why it's called a leap of faith. And she says he doesn't have to be alone when he takes this leap of faith. And he approaches her and he takes her hand. Helen is like exactly the kind of person that Locke needs, and he's so unbelievably lucky to have found her.
Yeah, he made a promise, he broke it, but she understands why he broke it, and she's given him the second chance. She's not there to scold him for breaking a promise. She's there to help him. She recognizes that he needs help. This is not about her. It's not a slight against her that he did this.
And there you go. That tells it all. Like, that she's a good partner. She's right for him. We're back at the hatch, and Locke is in tears, about his situation. He might even be thinking about his flashback as well.
Yeah.
And we hear Kate call for Jack. She enters to see Locke crouched there. He quickly stands up, and Hurley and Saeed follow her into the dome. And of course, all Hurley can say is,
"Dude."
Saeed asks what the situation is. Locke confirms that Jack left, and he tells Saeed he needs his help. The timer clicks from 25 to 24, which implies a time jump that has just happened. I don't think it was, right there. So
yeah.
Saeed is already in action. He's instructing Kate to find a breaker box, and she's like searching along the walls of the station, walking along.
So we can calculate there how long it takes for Kate to run back to camp, grab Saeed and Hurley, and bring them back.
Oh, I guess we can, yeah. Not long, it seems.
So why did Hurley come?
We find out for the plot why he came when they start putting in the numbers, but
obviously it's so the writers can make a fat joke when he finds the pantry. But the other question I want to ask is, how did they get back in the hatch? Did they use the door that Kate left through?
Yeah, I guess maybe the door is closer.
Because no offense, but Hurley's not getting down that shaft.
Oh dear. Yeah, I mean, this hatch is supposed to be miles away from the original camp as well, right? The geography of this island changes for the convenience of the plot, as we are well aware by now.
As we are watching before our eyes.
Yeah, and I said it before in this very episode, I'll say it again. When you notice something like that,
the island
did it. So Hurley is supposed to be helping, but we all know he's not really going to be much help. He follows some tubes as per Kate's instruction, and he stumbles upon the pantry full of food. Good goddamn. We cut back to the lads in the pit. Sawyer lays out his plan. Jin will play sick, and Ana Lucia will call for help. But she is not impressed at the old sick prisoner ruse. Now, that's not why it's a bad idea. It's a bad idea because Jin doesn't speak English. So how are they supposed to instruct him what to do? Get Michael to play sick. Why Jin? They Why do the writers like to make these characters forget that Jin does not speak English?
I don't know. It's something they keep hammering home so often. Like, if only Jin could speak English. If only, if only, if only. But we're like smack bang in the middle of season 2 now. We get it. He doesn't speak English. Can we just like... But then again, Jin serves a role.
He does.
Or at least he will serve a role. But until now, he doesn't really. Like, his role up until now with not speaking English was to highlight the betrayal of Sun knowing English behind his back. Right? That was the whole reason he was in the show. So it's like the writers are just trying to give Daniel Day Kim something to do here.
Yeah, he seems to be scrambling to catch on for an arc. Although, to be fair, he hasn't had a whole lot of screen time in season 2 yet. So you can be forgiven for that. They'll kickstart his shit soon, I'm sure.
He's fumbling for a story arc like a freshman at his new girlfriend's panties or something like that. Like, he's just struggling here.
Ana Lucia questions Sawyer on where he got the gun. Sawyer says there was a federal marshal on the plane. She seems pretty sus about how he got it. And she's like, why didn't you use it when you were being kidnapped? Sawyer says he didn't have time to mull it over as he was being clubbed in the face. Although, as you said, he did have enough time with Chappie fucking running at him.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there. Now it's Sawyer's turn to be sus, though. Why is she so interested in the gun? Michael tells him to cut the shit, but it's a mistake because when Sawyer turns to inevitably argue with him, Ana Lucia clocks him in the jaw, giving Sawyer his second concussion of the day, you would think.
That lad needs medical attention at this point.
Seriously. Maybe that's why he thought Jin could play. He forgot Jin couldn't speak English because he got brain damage.
But yeah, it's arguing with Michael is literally Sawyer's favorite pastime at this stage.
Yeah.
Or maybe Sawyer just always needs a punching bag.
Anyway, he gets clocked. She grabs the gun. She points the piece at Michael and Jin, telling them to back up, which is good advice for your data and files, folks. And then she shouts, "Coming out." And it's pretty obvious that she's shouting it to whoever's outside the pit.
Yeah, but she has to shout it a fucking second time.
Yeah. The cage opens and the big dude from earlier throws a rope down. It's got a foothold. It's very slick how she does it. She just steps onto it and it's like
Mary Poppins.
Yeah, like hoisted out, pointing the gun all the while. The lads have been double crossed. And as she reaches the top, the guy speaks to her in an African accent, it seems, and he asks who the guys are, which is it's a bit of a throwaway line, but we know that the others. Like this is interesting because we know that the others know about the survivors, right?
Do they?
Yeah, because they had Ethan among their ranks, right?
Yeah. Hold on. Sorry, yeah. I understand where your line of questioning is coming from. No,
Yeah.
I was under a different idea.
So this guy asking who are they is interesting, right? Because these are allegedly the others, but we thought they had a bit more info than that.
No, because we've seen Ana Lucia. We knew for a fact Ana Lucia was at the back of the plane, or at least we the audience should remember that from season 1. And if she knows this guy, therefore, ergo ipso de facto, this guy is also another tail section survivor. So
I mean, you could maybe posit that she like teamed up with the others, but there's enough information in this episode for you to deduce that the tailies are a thing.
Yes, the tailies are now officially a thing because we've seen that there are at least 5 of these people who are working with Ana Lucia to find out who these guys are. Michael, Jin, and Sun. Michael, Jin, and Sawyer. Misspoke. But you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, I feel you. We cut to Desmond hoofing it through the jungle. He tropes and falls. Huh? And all his shit falls out of his bag. People trip and fall a lot.
Listeners, this is the shit I have to put up with. Tropes and falls.
All his shit falls out of his bag. As he's picking it up, we hear, "Stop!" And there's fucking Jack again. Just getting all up in everyone's business today. And he's pointing a gun right at Desmond. Desmond he's like, "Oh, yeah, fuck. How embarrassing. I forgot to give you the code." Yes, it's so he starts rhyming off the numbers. This is why he thinks Jack is pointing a gun at him.
Ah, yeah, of course, the code. Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry, I
yeah.
should have. Yeah,
Sorry. Fucking would lose me head if it wasn't screwed on. 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42. Jack doesn't give a fuck. And he seems to really want Desmond to know that he doesn't think anything is going to happen.
this is what I mean by becoming irrationally angry at the other's belief in, the end of the world.
John Locke is hard on his faith kick, but Jack is just as hard the opposite direction. Like the two of them have similar energy in this episode. Not moods, but you know what I mean? They're both just as dug into their positions as one another.
Completely.
Which again drives that dichotomy home, I guess. Desmond says, you don't think so? Fair enough. You'll either be very right or very wrong in about 15 minutes. And Jack just freaks the fuck out at this. Like he goes way overboard. I'm telling you, man. Get more sleep. And he screams that Desmond doesn't even know what he's running from, like way over the top. But he screams that, and the word running finally triggers Desmond's memory. He recognizes Jack as the dude from the stadium, the guy who twisted his ankle. And Desmond very kindly and empathetically asks after Sarah's condition because he remembers in vivid detail now everything they talked about.
Yeah, good fucking memory on him.
Jack says it doesn't matter, but after some pressing, he screams that he married the woman. He married Sarah. And then he lowers the gun and he starts crying. And Desmond correctly concludes that the marriage didn't last.
Did we already know this?
We did. We know he's not married when he gets to the island. And, I didn't write this down, but it just occurred to me here that this is an interesting parallel that they paint between Jack and Locke in this episode. Because we know that both of them found love with partners that seem to be quite good for them, and that neither of them have those partners anymore. They came to the island alone, broken.
True. That's a really good point.
It's interesting, isn't it? We didn't really know about Helen until this episode. We knew about Sarah, but it's interesting that they kind of have that in common. They're both going through bad breakups.
Isn't it also interesting that despite John's behavior in the flashbacks, Helen is so calm and together about it all, despite the fact that our introduction to her was at an anger management meeting?
Yeah, I mean, she does mention how she was angry for 20 years and then she realized she couldn't do it alone. She seems to imply that John Locke was the reason why she got over it, but I don't know if I buy that. I buy that she was maybe going to meetings for 20 years and she finally got a handle on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is it's pretty much confirmed here then. Lost, more than anything else, is a show about how people deal with breakups.
Do not watch Lost for handling breakup advice.
So all that aside, why do you think Jack is crying here? He has a pretty strong emotional reaction to all this. Any theories on that?
Lack of sleep. Lack of sleep, man.
It's gotta be it, right?
The blood sugar's running fierce low here. To give a real answer to that question, though, I'm not 100% sure. I think it's he's just so frustrated to the point. He's frustrated with not understanding Desmond and John's just belief, their leap of faith in this stuff. And it's driving him mad.
Yeah, I think it's against mounting evidence against his case as well, right? He's up against that. Like, I think the wrestling, the sort of inner conflict with the man of faith side of his personality has already begun, because John Locke is so gung ho on destiny, and Jack sees that as a logical. John Locke saying this is the way things are supposed to be, and Jack disagrees. But then he meets this guy that he's met before, and Desmond acted as sort of a spirit guide when one of the most important phases of Jack's life began, right? So he's going up against that. I think he's in denial, but that it's difficult to deny that that's not fucking some kind of fate, right? Like that it's, and I think maybe it's a bit much to cry at it, but like you said, like we've been saying all episode, not a lot of sleep either. So
yeah, being confronted with Desmond, just a random stranger he met from his past, it's almost as if the universe is telling him this is meant to be, and that's just so against Jack's, no pun intended, system of belief.
Yeah. It also, I guess he would associate Desmond in his mind with the night that he fixed Sarah. And so it's just pulling up all those emotions about his failed marriage
Oh,
again.
really good point. Really good point, man.
There you go.
Because it's at the moment when he's questioned about Sarah from Desmond.
Mm-hmm.
That's when he kind of breaks and he puts the gun down and has a little bit of a whinge to himself.
Yeah. But of course, Jack communicates none of this verbally. He simply looks at Desmond, teary eyed.
Like a real man.
Yeah. And Desmond knows it's time to take his leave. See you in another life, yeah? He repeats again and he takes off into the jungle. Jack doesn't stop him. Back at the hatch, we got another shot of our timer. It clicks from 6 down to 5. One more minute before we get to see if the alarm still works. Earlier on, I think Candle noticed that the alarm starts sounding at 4 minutes.
It just goes to show how the numbers are so prevalent. It's at 4 minutes.
Yeah.
That the beep goes off. Not 5 minutes, not 10, not 1, 4.
Saeed diagnoses the issue with the computer and the power allowed. He doesn't question why they need it, which Locke points out. And Saeed says, I can wait. Like, it seems like this is pressing. I'll ask questions later. And like, this is fucking classic Saeed, classic legend Saeed. He's so logically on point all the time. He does not fuck around.
He's so pragmatic about these things. Like, I'm sure there are answers and I'm sure I'll get them. But for now, just let me do my thing.
Again, we said it in 2021, Saeed for leader 2022. Kate finally finds the breaker box and she pushes a lever which activates the power again. All the lights in the hatch are back on. As Kate and Hurley re-enter the dome, the alarm begins to sound and the countdown timer has begun to helpfully display seconds when it drops below the 4 minute. So before it's just a minute, minutes to change. Now it's got the seconds counting down. So Saeed gets the fuck to work and he has it fixed within about 4 seconds.
Yeah, well done to him. Like, I mean, Mr. Fix It right here.
Yeah. I guess he's been working on it the whole time, but it didn't seem like when he kind of out loud said, okay, this is the problem. It seemed like he hadn't done anything. I don't know. It was pretty funny. He's like, all right, here we go. Okay, done.
He literally just hotwired that computer.
The computer screen comes back to life. What now? Everybody asks, and Locke begins to enter the code 4, 8, and Hurley, of course,
recognizes.
He takes notice. Yeah. He tells him to stop. Locke doesn't listen. 15, 16. Hurley continues his protests until Locke enters the last 2 numbers, 23, 32.
Yeah, and at that point, Hurley's like, "Do you know what? Go ahead. Do you think?"
Like, yeah, no, never mind. All good. All good. Forget I said anything.
But I actually feel like Hurley's reaction there to the number 32 is against his character because so the theory that everyone's operating on here is that this computer, should you quote unquote push the button, you will prevent the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't push the button, you are to believe the world will end. If you do push the button, nothing happens. But if you don't push it, world ends. You should always then just be pushing the button, right? It's just logical. Do you really want to risk the end of the world, or do you just push, just push the button? Hurley would absolutely, if he was true to his character, be saying, just push the button.
Does he have that information though? I don't think he knows what the button does.
Good point.
I don't think he was present for Desmond saying anything. Locke hasn't said anything. We know Saeed hasn't asked any questions, right? In fact, yeah, because he arrived with Saeed. Saeed just confirmed he has no information, right?
Yeah, okay. Good point. Forget I said anything.
But I agree with you. I don't think Hurley would be that against the numbers if he knew what the thing was supposed to do. So Locke's about to hit execute with 32 as the last number when a voice comes from the doorway. It's not 32. They look up and they see Jack entering. He corrects him to 42. Hurley gives him a look like bum, bum, bum. Locke fixes his error and he's about to hit execute when he he knows how to test a man. He says, Jack, you should do it.
On his bullshit.
Jack cannot fucking believe it. He's like, are you serious? And John hilariously says it's a 2-person job, at least. And And Saeed is like, even Saeed is on Jack's side here. He's like, ladies, please, can we fucking put our dicks away?
Yeah.
And like,
it's gonna reset the timer to 108 minutes. You can do this again in just over an hour and a half if you really want to. But for now, just push the damn button.
But Jack is like, nah, Saeed, don't worry about it. It's not real. Locke's talking brown. Let him do it if he loves his precious button so much, you know.
Now, why is John doing this?
Well, let's find out. I mean, he questions Jack why he even came back, and they have this amazing exchange. I think this is a great set of lines.
Oh, I actually have them written in my notes. I was
Me too.
blown away.
Me too. John says, "Why do you find it so hard to believe?" Jack says, "Why do you find it so easy?" And Locke says, "It's never been easy."
And that is their conflict summed up in 3 lines.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
It's amazing. It's a fantastic bit of writing. Really sums up John Locke's character as well. You believe him. He says it with such conviction, and we know what his life has been. It's been a series of leaps of faith followed by him getting shit on, and he keeps coming back. None of this has been easy for him, but he keeps on trucking. Kate tells Jack, she's like, maybe you should just do it, but he refuses. And then Locke echoes Helen's earlier sentiments. He says he can't do it alone because he doesn't want to. It's a leap of faith. He's asking Jack to take this leap of faith.
Yeah.
And we've got 25 fucking seconds left here. And Jack is finally convinced. Something about the way Locke said it, he got him. He walks around the computer terminal as the alarm further intensifies with 10 seconds to go. And Jack hits execute with 1 second remaining on the timer, and every arse in the room unclenches.
It actually gets down to the 0.
Does it?
Yeah.
I thought it was 1.
No. It goes from 1 to the 0, and then it click.
Okay,
up.
Nice. Yeah. Flicks back to 108. Jack and Locke stare at one another before Locke walks around to the computer chair and he says, "I'll take the first shift."
And that one line I love. It's one of my favorite lines. "I'll take the first shift," because it's just this. There's so much that's said in that one line of, this is where we are now. This is where we're going to be for a while. This is the new status quo.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take the first shift.
Lost is about to become a drama about people pressing a button.
It's going to become an office drama. Do.
We get one final shot of the clock just to remind us, like you said, this is how it is now. They're not safe from this shit. They're never getting out of these woods. It goes from 108 down to 107. Lost.
Although I'm amazed that as soon as Desmond communicated to them the importance of the button, he didn't just immediately book it like, I'm free. Although he did do that in the end, but it was to get away from the end of the world or whatever, Although if it was the end of the world, I mean, why is he running?
Do you think he's out there thinking like, oh, I guess it was bullshit all along because nothing happened? He doesn't know, right?
Yeah, I mean, the way he left it, that computer was fucked.
Mm-hmm.
Although then again, supposedly there was a guy on the way who could fix it, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, Saeed is, granted, he's very tech savvy. He doesn't have a lot of materials to work with in repairing stuff on the island, although he's obviously got a little bit more. He's got a toolbox.
Yeah, there's a toolbox now
for a computer, right? He's got a toolbox. Like, there's monkey wrenches and shit in there, right? Donk. If I had a bullet hole in my laptop and I brought it to the laptop repair shop, although the one around the corner, they'd probably fucking slap a plaster on it and hand it back to me.
They'd fucking keep it for 8 weeks, slap a plaster on it, and then hand it back to you.
They might as well have fucking done that last time.
What'd you think of the episode?
I thought it was a brilliant episode. Brilliant. It's got all my favorite shit in there. It has got a compelling flashback story. Not my favorite flashback story, although then again, I think my favorite ones are like, I don't know, Sawyer and Hugo's. Those are all my favorite ones. I'm actually quite engaged with the Michael flashbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Locke's ones are quite good as well. I really like this one. The fact that we got a lot of Dharma info.
Mm-hmm. Hook it to my veins.
Yeah, a couple of Hurley one-liners in there. We finally get Sawyer, although I know he was like very heavily featured in the last episode, but it was just him and Michael playing the odd couple. But, we get some of them as well. Introduction to, some actual faces from the tailies. There's a lot in this episode.
It's dense. It's a thick boy. I agree with you on the flashbacks. I think these ones had more emotional heft than narrative heft, if you know what I mean. Like they definitely added a lot more dimensions to Locke's already very multidimensional character. Didn't push his backstory forward a whole lot, but I don't think we really needed it. It served its purpose. And yeah, like you said, the lore stuff, just every time I will cut up Dharma Initiative orientation videos and snort lines of them. Like, hit me with that shit. On that strange metaphor, Ado, I've got a nice, thick, just like this episode, thick and meaty is my trivia section. You ready for this?
I am lubed up, ready to go.
Let's hit that trivia music. Alrighty, so a bit of behind the scenes info here. The writers had a fear that the swan scenes would be very heavy on exposition and that they'd be kind of dull, just characters standing around explaining things when they originally conceived the episode. So they added the idea of the broken computer just to insert tension, crisis that wasn't supposed to be there originally. But it kept the episode interesting and it allowed people to reveal new information on the fly. And I have to say this worked so well. Like, such a good example of how to coat your exposition in actual drama. It didn't feel manufactured at all either. It worked.
Well, a good way of being able to tell if something like that is manufactured is look at the consequences of it. If the characters are right back at square one once that issue is resolved, then it's bullshit writing. The only real consequence of that computer breaking is that it led Desmond to fuck off.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas he's already an incredibly likable character. I'm not sure how well that's going to serve the show at the moment. Although then again, had Desmond actually stuck around a bit longer, it would have given the danger of him providing too much information to the audience at any one time. So the show needed a reason to get him to literally just go away for a while.
Yeah, I do have a trivia point on that I will get to in a second. Next point, this episode marks the first proper appearance of Adewale Akinuye Akbaje. I confirmed that pronunciation, although I still feel like I butchered it a little bit. But it's his first proper appearance as Mr. Echo. Obviously, we had a shot of him in the last episode at the end. But he stated about his introductory scene where he ran at the guys brandishing a club, quote, "There's no better way to make an entrance."
Yeah, he literally enters the show with a bang.
So, on the subject of Desmond, this episode was originally intended to be the final appearance of Desmond. But due to the strong fan and critic reaction to his character, they brought him back in the finale of season 2 and made him a series regular for seasons 3 to 6.
Oh, damn. So we don't see him again until the finale.
Yeah. Do you remember how he re-enters?
Not really.
It's interesting that was the case because I thought they implied some things from his flashbacks that we get later here, but maybe they hadn't planned that far ahead yet.
Maybe not. I've seen him in 2 other things. That actor Henry Ian Cusick. He's in the Marvel show The Inhumans, where he's a very smooth talking bad guy in it. But the other thing I've seen him in was I was homesick from school one time. I'm sorry. I know we're in the middle of the trivia section. I'm going off.
No, please. No, do it.
I was homesick from school once upon a time, and National Geographic was on in the background while I was just dicking around on the family computer looking for porn while mom was out of the house for whatever, right? But then I happened to look over. It was like a documentary on the life of Jesus or whatever. And then I just recognized who Jesus... Sorry, home from school? No, because I didn't watch Lost until like I was in my 20s.
I mean, same story applies, though, right? You're probably still looking for something to wank to.
Whatever. But yeah, I just remember once upon a time at some stage in my life, somewhere between the age of 20 and 29, I don't know, National Geographic was on in the background, a documentary about the life of Jesus. And lo and behold, who the fuck is playing Jesus in it?
Henry Ian Cusick.
Henry Ian fucking Cusick. Apparently, he's a dab hand at the ukulele.
Really?
Yeah, I think he uploaded videos of himself playing uke during COVID onto Twitter. He's quite active on Twitter, I believe.
Yeah, he seems like a lovely man, actually. On that note, the photograph of Desmond and Penny originally had Henry Ian Cusick with a woman who was clearly not Sonia Walger, who would go on to play Penny later on, because Sonia was not hired to portray the character of Penny until the season finale, Live Together, Die Alone, Part 1, because they hadn't planned on bringing Desmond back, right? The woman in the photo was originally a completely different woman on the original airing of the episode and everything. And they
Ah,
corrected it for subsequent airings and for the DVD release and for what we saw on Disney Plus. So I actually couldn't find a picture of this original one. I'm sure I didn't, to be honest, I did this while I was working today, so I didn't have a whole lot of time to research. I didn't look that hard. I'm sure it's out there. But I would have seen the first time I saw this episode was when it first aired. I assume now, unless they had changed it by the time it aired in the UK and Ireland, but I assume I would have seen that when I first watched this show. Yeah, Ado's Googled it. You can actually see that photo on the Desmond's photo page on Lostpedia. Check it out. Next bit of trivia. The chalkboard at Locke's meeting titles the session Transforming Anger, and it has 6 subsections below it. None of them are super relevant, to be honest. Call a truce with anger, an anger love connection. They're all numbered 1 to 6. Number 3 is the only interesting one. It says rewire your hot button.
oh, nice.
Foreshadowing Saeed's fucking handiwork, I guess.
Whoever thought to put that on the chalkboard, whatever member of the production staff, must be so proud of themselves.
The anger management group has 16 people in it. Numbers.
Oh, lovely. Love a good number thrown in there.
The Tailies, Bernard, Cindy, and Libby. Now, I think this is similar to a bit of trivia you had last week.
Yeah.
They were portrayed by extras in the scene when attacking the raft survivors, and in the following scene when they're being transported to the pit. So the only actor we have so far is the only actors are Ana Lucia and Mr. Echo.
Yes, but they didn't have to confirm them to be those characters. They could have just been random tailies.
Well, here's the thing, right? So this is what I'm going to read this out exactly as I found it online. This could have been done for budgetary reasons as to not pay the actors for a full episode.
That is a commonly done thing in Hollywood, unfortunately.
Yeah. Or because they had not been cast yet in the case of Bernard and Libby. So really, it was just Cindy who got fucked here because she was cast. She's appeared in an episode before.
Yeah.
She was the flight attendant on Oceanic Flight A15 for those.
I want a spin-off miniseries following Cindy's story throughout the entire events of this show. Because it is bizarre where we see her crop up.
We do get her in an upcoming episode a little bit, right? The other 46 days, we find out what happened to her.
Yeah, but there's even more to it beyond that.
I guess, yeah. Yeah, there are a lot of unanswered questions there.
Correct.
Okay, here is a piece of trivia that I don't think either you or I will appreciate, but someone might. So I decided it's to do with Alias, right? And I have never seen Alias, but I know that if I had, I would appreciate this piece of trivia. So here's one for all our Alias heads out there. The Swan orientation film was shot on the APO set from seasons 4 and 5 of Alias in Burbank by the Alias crew. So it's apparently a recognizable set if you like that show. Hope there's at least one listener who could appreciate that. The actor Teddy Wells is seen during Locke's flashback as one of the members in his anger management group. He can be seen when Locke begins to tell everyone that they feel too much. This actor, Teddy Wells, would later portray a native other named Ivan. Not a huge role, but yeah, he's one of the native others. He's got medical proficiency or something. His Lostpedia page is very brief, but
yeah, I'd say that's just double dipping with an actor.
Yeah, 100%. Although I think he has at least 1 or 2 lines, so he got promoted to speaking role. Nice, Teddy. The episode ends with a Giacchino track called "The Final Countdown," because of course it does.
I love the titles of his pieces.
That combines motifs for Jack and Locke with the theme of the Swan. Sawyer at one point refers to Howdy Doody. He says, quote unquote, Shaft is going to get an old Howdy Doody.
Mm-hmm.
That was a children's television program that aired from 1947 through to 1960. Sawyer's classic references. Howdy Doody himself was a freckle-faced boy marionette That really doesn't tell me anything about the reference he made. I assumed that he was a cowboy and he brandished a gun.
I
And that's
don't
why.
think Sawyer was trying to make a reference by saying howdy doody.
Okay, yeah, maybe not. I don't know. It was on the Lostpedia. Got a bunch of interesting trivia about the Swan Orientation movie. I couldn't not, right?
Go.
So, first of all, they mention how the De Groots were influenced in their wanting to make, like a big compound of research. They were influenced by a man named B.P. Skinner. Burrhus Frederick Skinner was a guy. He was an actual dude mentioned in the Swan Orientation film. He was an American psychologist and author, and he conducted pioneering work on experimental psychology and advocated behaviorism, which sought to understand behavior as a function of environmental histories of reinforcement. He wrote a number of controversial works in which he proposed the widespread use of psychological behavior modification techniques, primarily something called operant conditioning. And this was in order to improve society and increase human happiness. But these were, pretty dodgy, basically like psychological manipulation.
Yeah, brainwashing a populace.
Yeah, I didn't have too much time to go into him, but I've saved the tab. He seems like an interesting guy to read about. So the bit that's cut off in the Swan Orientation video, when he's referring to a list of scientific disciplines like zoology, parapsychology, it cuts off when he says utopian social. Now, this could refer to either utopian socialism or utopian social engineering. And in fact, in the Spanish translation of this episode, it says Ingeniería Social Utópica, which is utopian social engineering. So
Right.
they kind of leaked what they were supposed to be saying, which again ties to BP Skinner.
I love it when trivia is garnished from other language versions of the show, or not versions of the show, but from other dubs and subtitles.
Yeah. I like that too.
Like that's some proper Sherlock Holmes shit right there.
Absolutely. Here's an interesting one. Dr. Marvin Candle's left arm is a prosthetic.
What?
Yeah. Go back and look at it.
No fucking way. His left arm is a prosthetic. Do we find out why at some point throughout the show? Am I inventing a memory?
I think so. I think that it's something to do with what happens at the incident in the season 5 finale, but I don't remember for certain.
That's very interesting. I never noticed that.
Nah, me neither.
You're absolutely correct. At the time he was seen with a prosthetic hand, the result of his injury sustained in the incident.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one I mentioned earlier, the theme songs for the Swan and later the Pearl Orientation movies contain the melody with an added note at the end from a musical theme from the score, which also appears in the end credits of Lost. The name of that piece of music is The Island, but Island is spelled Eyeland.
Interesting.
I guess it's to do with the eye motif or whatever.
Yeah, sure. Let's go with that.
Okay, so Marvin Candle says that each team is stationed at the Swan for 540 days, which, by the way, is 108 multiplied by 5. It's estimated that each team, provided they did stay for 540 days, pushed the button between 7,200 times and 7,476 times. This is based on the fact that they actually reset the timer before the 108 minutes are up, so it could be anywhere between 104 minutes. Anywhere between 104 and 108 minutes between each pushing of the button. Locke and Desmond are also able to successfully press the button after the timer displayed the hieroglyphs, which occurred after 0. So while it could have been no more than 7,476 times, it may have been less than 7,200 times.
But still, 7,000 plus.
Yeah, which is wild. Okay, here's a little trivia about our boy Kelvin. This is the first episode where Desmond uses the name Kelvin. That's the name of the guy that was in the Swan Hatch before Desmond. The name Kelvin is purposefully used in all of J.J. Abrams' projects in honor of his grandfather, who was also named Kelvin and was very influential in his childhood.
Oh, I thought it was a reference to the scientist Kelvin.
Unless it's a double, but this does appear, this name in as far as I know, every J.J. Abrams project, at least up until now. I don't know if it was in I don't know if he puts it in his Star Wars movies or whatever, but I like that little bit of trivia.
Yeah, that's nice.
I got one goof for you.
Only one?
Yeah, this was a tight episode, apparently, production-wise.
Cool. Hit me with it.
When Desmond falls in the jungle, a crew member can be seen in the background.
Oh.
Simple, effective.
Yeah, we love a bit of that going on. They seem to never learn from their fucking mistakes with that.
Although, only one this episode, so that's progress. My last piece of trivia, as is tradition, is a sort of ridiculous one, although, like the last time I did trivia, I ended on one that could legitimately be seen as foreshadowing at a stretch. This one is similar, right?
Go on.
When Helen and John are speaking earlier in the episode, she says he, quote, has to keep a cork in.
Oh, fuck off.
Jacob later analogized the island as a cork that keeps evil from enveloping the world.
Yeah.
It's a stretch, but it could be seen as thematic, I guess.
Totally coincidental.
I can never find anything as good as Jack saying he needs blood and then Boone playing a vampire later on. That was my favorite one.
You never forget your first, right?
Nah. Shit, that's it, Ada. That's the trivia section. That is it for the episode. We did it. This is a fun one. The fun episode of Lost the Plot, I hope. I had a great time. You can get us on all our socials. We will list them at the end. We also got an old TikTok now. We got a YouTube page. We got a merch store, I think. Still don't have a link for that in my head, but it should be in the fucking bio if you want to have a look at that. And please suggest us to a friend who likes Lost and a friend who hates Lost. That's your homework. Find one of each and suggest us to them.
There you go.
That'll do it for us. Ado, before we leave, what is your theory this week?
My theory this week is that after his surgery, John didn't just lose a kidney, he lost some hair as well, as noticed by Helen in this episode, so that Cooper could put it on his chest to feel more manly.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. Thanks again for joining us this week. And remember, you haven't lost anything until you've lost the plot.
Good night.
Lost the Plot is produced by me and Ado. The artwork is by Jimmy Purcell of BeenBetterComic.com. The music is by Noel Brennan of No Exit. You can check out No Exit wherever you stream your music. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at LostThePlotLads, and you can email us at losttheplotlads@gmail.com.